Riley, the one caught between her boss and her boss's fiancé.
I'm Ice Queen Victoria Chen, Riley's boss.
Audrey here, Victoria's fiancée.
I didn't sleep that night. I know that's what everyone says when something dramatic happens, like it's a requirement of storytelling. Oh, I tossed and turned all night. But I mean it literally. I lay flat on my back in the dark, staring at the ceiling, replaying every single moment of that day like some kind of deranged mental highlight reel. Audrey's lips in the conference room. Soft. Sweet. The way she'd whispered my name like it meant something. Victoria's hands in the elevator. Possessive. Burning. The way she'd pinned me against the wall like she owned me. 2 women. Same couple. Both of them wanted me. And the texts. God, the texts. Audrey, dinner tomorrow? I need to see you. Victoria, my office. 8 a.m. Don't be late. I picked up my phone for probably the 100th time that night and stared at both messages. The rational part of my brain, the part that had gotten me through college and grad school and 2 years at Sterling Media, was screaming at me to ignore both of them. Block both numbers. Go to work, keep my head down, and pretend none of this ever happened. But there was another part of me. A louder part. The part that remembered the way Audrey had looked at me like I was the most interesting person in the room. The part that remembered the way Victoria's breath had felt against my neck, hot and desperate. That part was already picking out an outfit for tomorrow. I finally fell asleep around 4 in the morning and woke up to my alarm at 6:30 feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. I showered, did my makeup, put on a blue blouse that I knew made my eyes look good, then changed into a white one because I didn't want Victoria to think I was dressing up for her, then changed back to the blue one because honestly, maybe I was. I got to Sterling Media at 7:45, 15 minutes early. The building was mostly empty, that weird liminal space where the cleaning crew was finishing up and the early risers hadn't arrived yet. I made myself a cup of coffee in the break room, spilled some on my blouse, cursed, dabbed it with a paper towel, and tried to convince myself that a tiny brown stain near my collar was character. At exactly 7:58, I walked toward Victoria's office. Her door was open. She was already inside, standing by the window, silhouetted against the morning light. She'd traded her usual sharp blazer for something softer, a cream-colored silk blouse with the top button undone. Her hair was down, which I'd never seen at work before. She looked almost approachable. Almost. Close the door, she said without turning around. I closed it. The click of the latch sounded very loud in the quiet office. Victoria turned to face me, and I braced myself. For the Ice Queen. For the threats. For whatever power play she'd been planning all night. What I didn't brace for was the look on her face. She looked tired. Genuinely tired. Not the polished exhaustion of someone who works too hard, but the raw, exposed kind. Like she hadn't slept either. Like something had cracked overnight, and she hadn't quite figured out how to put herself back together. Sit down, she said, and her voice was different too. Softer. Almost uncertain. I sat in the chair across from her desk. She didn't sit behind the desk like she usually did. Instead, she leaned against the front of it, arms crossed, close enough that I could smell her perfume. Something different from the gala, less bold, more intimate. What I did in the elevator was wrong, Victoria said. I blinked. Of all the things I'd expected, an apology wasn't on the list. I was angry. I was jealous. And I took it out on you in a way that was completely inappropriate. You're my employee. I cornered you in a confined space and touched you without your consent. That's... She closed her eyes briefly. That's not who I want to be. I didn't know what to say. The Victoria Chen I knew didn't apologize. She certainly didn't admit to being wrong. She issued edicts and expected compliance. Victoria. Let me finish. She opened her eyes. What I said in the elevator, about wanting you, about the last 18 months, that was true. All of it. I have been watching you. I have been pushing you too hard. And it wasn't because I saw potential in you, even though I do. It was because... She swallowed, and I watched her throat move. It was because every time you walked into a room, I forgot how to be a professional. My heart was hammering so hard, I was sure she could hear it. But that's my problem, she continued. Not yours. You didn't ask to be the object of your boss's inappropriate obsession. You didn't ask for any of this. And I owe you an apology for the way I've treated you for the last year and a half. She paused, seeming to gather herself. As for Audrey, Victoria's jaw tightened. What happens between me and my fiancé is between us. But I'm asking you, not ordering you, asking to give me space to figure this out. Before anyone does something they can't take back. She looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw something I'd never seen in Victoria Chen's eyes before. Vulnerability. The Ice Queen, the woman who could make grown editors cry with a single raised eyebrow, was standing in front of me with her armor off, asking me for something. Okay, I said. Victoria exhaled. Just barely, but I caught it. Relief. Thank you, Riley. She moved to walk past me toward the door, and as she did, her hand brushed mine. Just her fingertips against my knuckles. Light as air. She paused, looked down at where our hands almost touched. You wore the blue, she murmured, so quietly I almost missed it. What? The blue blouse. You wore it to the Hartley pitch last month. She met my eyes. You look beautiful in blue. And then she was gone, walking out of her own office like she needed to escape, leaving me sitting there with my heart in my throat and my brain in shambles. She noticed. She noticed what I wore to a pitch meeting a month ago. Pull yourself together, Riley. I couldn't pull myself together. I floated through the morning in a daze, barely reading the manuscripts on my desk, responding to emails on autopilot. My brain kept replaying the meeting, looking for the catch, waiting for the other shoe to drop. Because this was Victoria Chen. She didn't do vulnerability. She didn't apologize. She didn't lean against her desk in a silk blouse with her hair down and tell you that you looked beautiful. Unless she wanted something. But what did she want? She'd told me to stay away from Audrey. She'd basically said she wanted me but couldn't have me. So, what was the play? I was still trying to figure that out when my phone buzzed at noon. Audrey, so dinner tonight? There's a new Italian place on 8th that I've been dying to try. I stared at the text. Victoria had asked me to give her space. She hadn't mentioned Audrey's dinner invitation specifically, but the implication was clear. Back off. Let them sort their relationship out. The smart thing to do is decline. I typed, I'll be there. What time? Audrey responded immediately, 7 o'clock. I'll send you the address. And Riley? Wear something pretty. I was going to hell. Directly to hell. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. But I was going to look fantastic doing it. The restaurant was called Luca's. Small, intimate, candlelit. The kind of place where couples held hands across the table and shared dessert. Not the kind of place you went with a woman whose fiancé had been pressed against you in an elevator 24 hours ago. I'd changed outfits 4 times. Settled on a fitted black top and jeans because I didn't want to look like I was trying too hard, even though I'd spent 45 minutes on my hair. There's a special kind of insanity that comes from getting ready for a date with someone else's fiancé. Like, what's the appropriate level of attractiveness? Do I dress up enough to show I care, or dress down enough to maintain plausible deniability that this is just dinner between friends? I went with the outfit that made my collarbones look good. Make of that what you will. Audrey was already there when I arrived. She'd gotten a table in the back corner, private, tucked away from the main dining room by a half wall of potted plants. She was wearing a soft green dress, her blonde hair loose around her shoulders, and when she saw me, her whole face lit up with that smile. That bright, genuine smile that made everything else in the room disappear. You came, she said, standing up to hug me. She smelled incredible, the same floral perfume from the gala, but softer, more intimate, like she'd applied it sparingly. Just enough that you had to lean in close to catch it. I said I would. I know. She pulled back, her hands lingering on my arms. I thought Victoria might have scared you off this morning. I froze. How did you know about the meeting? She told me. Audrey sat down and picked up her menu casually. Too casually. Like she'd rehearsed the gesture. We don't keep secrets from each other. Something about the way she said it felt off. Like a line from a script. But I pushed the feeling aside because the wine was already poured and Audrey was looking at me over the candle flame like I was the only person who'd ever existed, and that kind of attention is a drug. What did she say to you? Audrey asked. In the meeting. If you don't mind me asking. And there it was again, that slightly too specific curiosity I'd noticed in the conference room. Not the casual, "so what happened," of a concerned friend. More like an interviewer gathering data. Specific, targeted, wanting exact details. She apologized, I said carefully. For the elevator. Did she touch you? The question was so direct it startled me. What? Sorry. Audrey shook her head, laughing at herself. That came out weird. I just meant, was she appropriate? Professional? She can be so. She waved her hand. Intense. And I worry about her crossing lines. She was fine. She kept her distance. Audrey nodded, seeming satisfied. But I noticed she filed the information away. I could almost see it registering behind her eyes, cataloged and stored. She told me about the elevator too, Audrey continued. She shouldn't have done that. She can lose herself sometimes when emotions run high. A pause. She was up all night, you know, pacing the apartment. I haven't seen her that rattled in years. Rattled about what? That I might report her to HR. Rattled about you. Audrey leaned forward, her elbows on the table. She's terrified of how you make her feel. Victoria doesn't do loss of control. It's her biggest fear. And you. She reached across the table and touched my hand. You make her completely lose control. I don't mean to. I know. That's what makes it so powerful. The waiter came and took our orders. Pasta for Audrey, risotto for me. Another bottle of wine. The evening settled into something warm and easy, like we'd known each other for years instead of days. Audrey told me about herself. She was a gallery curator, contemporary art mostly. She and Victoria had met at an exhibition opening 3 years ago. Victoria had been there for a profile piece Sterling was running on the artist, and Audrey had been the one giving the tour. She was the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen, Audrey said, swirling her wine. And the most intimidating. She asked me 3 questions about the artist's influences, and I completely blinked. Couldn't remember a single thing I'd spent weeks researching. That sounds like Victoria. She called the gallery the next day. Told my assistant she needed a follow-up interview. Audrey smiled. There was no follow-up interview. She took me to dinner. I tried to picture it. Victoria Chin, nervous. Victoria Chin, asking someone out. It didn't compute. She's different when it's just us, Audrey said softly, reading my thoughts. Warm. Generous. She rubs my feet when I've been on them all day at the gallery. She reads to me before bed. She remembers every detail of every story I tell her. So what's wrong? I asked. If she's all those things, why are you here with me? Audrey was quiet for a long moment. Because somewhere along the way, the warmth turned into routine. The reading turned into habit. She still does all those things, but it's like... She stared at her wine. Like she's checking boxes. Be a good partner. Rub feet. Read book. Check, check, check. The spontaneity is gone. The fire. And I'm spontaneous? You're a wildfire. Audrey looked up at me, and her eyes were shining. You kissed me at a company gala in front of 100 people because you were angry at your boss. Who does that? An idiot. An idiot does that. Maybe. She squeezed my hand. But I've never felt more alive than in that moment. And I think Victoria felt the same way when she saw it. There was that word again. Alive. Both of them kept using it. Like they'd been sleepwalking through their perfectly curated life, and I'd stumbled in and woken them up. It should have been flattering. And it was. But underneath the flattery, something nagged at me. A whisper in the back of my brain that I couldn't quite hear. After dinner, Audrey walked me to the subway. The night was cool, and she'd linked her arm through mine, and anyone passing us on the sidewalk would have thought we were just 2 women enjoying a nice evening out. Riley? Audrey said as we reached the station entrance. Yeah, Victoria's going to a publishing conference this weekend. In Boston. She leaves Friday morning and won't be back until Sunday night. Okay, come over Saturday. She turned to face me, both hands holding mine. I want to cook for you. I want to spend time with you without looking over my shoulder. Audrey, I don't know if... Please. She stepped closer. I know this is complicated. I know it's messy. But I can't stop thinking about you, and I need to know if this is real or if I'm just... She trailed off. I need to know. She kissed me then. Softly, sweetly, right there on the sidewalk in front of the subway entrance. Her hands cupped my face, and her lips tasted like wine and the tiramisu we'd shared for dessert. When she pulled back, her eyes searched mine. Saturday, she whispered. Saturday, I heard myself say. She smiled, that bright, beautiful smile, and then she was walking away, her heels clicking on the sidewalk, and I was standing at the top of the subway stairs wondering when exactly I'd lost all control of my life. The rest of the week was a masterclass in psychological warfare. And the worst part was, I couldn't tell if it was intentional or if I was just losing my mind. On Tuesday, Victoria called me into her office to review a manuscript. Standard stuff. Happened all the time. Nothing unusual about it. Except, she stood behind me while I sat at her desk. One hand on the back of my chair, close enough that her knuckles brushed my shoulder blade when she shifted. She leaned in to point at corrections on the screen, and her hair, that impossibly silky black hair, brushed against my neck. "See here," she said, her finger tapping the monitor. The pacing falls apart in chapter 12. The writer rushes the emotional climax. "I noticed that too," I said, trying desperately to focus on the manuscript and not on the warmth radiating from her body behind me. "What would you suggest?" She was asking my opinion. Victoria Chin was asking my professional opinion like it mattered. Like I wasn't just a junior editor she could order around. "Slow it down," I said. "Let the reader sit with the tension before the resolution." The best emotional payoffs come from restraint, not rushing. Victoria was quiet for a moment. Then, that's exactly what I would have said. She leaned past me to type a note in the margin, and her cheek nearly brushed mine. I stopped breathing. "Good work on this one, Riley," she said as I stood to leave. "Your analysis of the second act was particularly insightful." A compliment. An actual, genuine compliment. From Victoria Chin. I nearly tripped over the chair. In 18 months of working under her, I could count the number of compliments she'd given me on one hand. On no hands, actually. This was the first one. I floated back to my desk feeling like I'd won the lottery and been hit by a bus at the same time. On Wednesday morning, my phone buzzed during a meeting. Audrey had sent me a photo of a painting she was hanging at the gallery. Abstract, all swirling blues and golds, with streaks of deep crimson cutting through the center like veins of fire. It was beautiful in a violent, restless way. "This reminded me of you," she wrote. Beautiful and chaotic. The artist says it's about the tension between what we want and what we think we deserve. I stared at that text for 5 full minutes. "It's stunning," I typed back. "What's it called?" "Controlled burn." I saved the photo. Hated myself for it. Saved it anyway. Set it as my phone wallpaper, then immediately changed it back, then saved it to a hidden folder because apparently I was a 13-year-old with a crush and not a grown woman with a graduate degree. Wednesday afternoon, Audrey texted again. "Victoria came home in a good mood today. She said you impressed her with a manuscript review." I've never seen her smile talking about work before. Something about that message unsettled me. Not the content itself, but the fact that Audrey was reporting Victoria's feelings to me. Like a relay. Like a bridge connecting two people who couldn't quite reach each other on their own. I didn't text back. On Thursday, Victoria left a coffee on my desk before I arrived. My exact order, oat milk latte with an extra shot, from the good place 3 blocks away, not the mediocre cart in the lobby. No note. No explanation. Just sitting there when I got to my cubicle at 8:30, still warm, the cardboard sleeve scrawled with R in handwriting that was too elegant to be anyone's but hers. Who left this? I asked Marcus, who was already at his desk. He shrugged. Victoria's assistant dropped it off. Said it was from Miss Chin. I stared at the coffee. Victoria Chin knew my coffee order. Victoria Chin, who allegedly couldn't be bothered to learn the names of half the junior staff, knew that I drank oat milk lattes with an extra shot. Marcus was watching me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Part amused, part concerned. "Riley," he said, lowering his voice. "Can I talk to you for a second?" "Sure." He rolled his chair closer to mine. "I know it's not my business, but be careful." "With what?" "With Victoria. With..." He glanced around to make sure no one was listening. "With all of it." "Marcus, I appreciate the concern, but... Do you remember Priya?" "From the features department." The name was vaguely familiar. She transferred to the London office, right? Like a year before I started. She didn't transfer. Marcus's voice was barely a whisper now. She requested the transfer. Practically begged for it. And she won't talk about why. What does that have to do with? She was Victoria's favorite too. Before you. Marcus leaned back in his chair, his expression carefully neutral. Just be careful. That's all I'm saying. He rolled back to his desk, leaving me staring at my free coffee with a knot forming in my stomach. I should have listened to him. Should have taken that warning and run with it. Should have texted Audrey right then and canceled Saturday. But I didn't. Because by Thursday night, I was so deep in whatever this was that pulling out felt impossible. Like trying to stop a car with no brakes on a downhill road. I could see the cliff coming, but my foot was on the gas. Friday morning, Victoria stopped by my desk on her way out. She was pulling a small suitcase, dressed in travel clothes, still impeccable, because Victoria Chin could make airport fashion look like a runway show. I'll be back Sunday, she said, pausing at my cubicle. Then, quieter, be good while I'm gone. The way she said it, be good, sent a shiver down my spine. Like she knew. Like she already knew exactly what I was planning to do Saturday night. But she couldn't know. Could she? She walked away, her heels clicking on the floor, and I watched her go with that nagging feeling in my chest growing louder and louder. Saturday evening. Audrey's apartment. Well, Audrey and Victoria's apartment, which I was trying very hard not to think about as I stood outside the door with a bottle of wine in one hand and my dignity in the other. I'd taken the subway. Specifically, I'd taken the subway instead of a cab because the 40-minute ride gave me time to talk myself in and out of this decision approximately 11 times. By the time I climbed the stairs to street level, I'd settled on going. By the time I found their building, a brownstone in the West Village, because of course they lived in the West Village, I'd unsettled on it. By the time I pressed the buzzer, I was settled again. My stomach felt like it had been replaced with a colony of very agitated bees. The building was beautiful in the way that old New York buildings are when someone with money and taste gets hold of them. Original woodwork. Clean hallways. The faint smell of expensive candles drifting from behind closed doors. I climbed to the third floor and stood in front of apartment 3B, trying to remember how to knock like a normal human being. I knocked. It was exactly what you'd expect from a gallery curator and a senior media editor inside. Clean lines, warm lighting, art on every wall, not mass-produced prints from West Elm, but real pieces, originals, the kind you see in galleries with little white cards next to them listing the artist and the price. A bookshelf took up an entire wall of the living room, organized by genre, with the fiction section alone bigger than most people's entire collections. Fresh flowers on the kitchen island, white peonies, perfectly arranged. The kind of place that looked effortlessly elegant, but probably took a lot of effort and a lot of money to maintain. Everywhere I looked, I saw them. Not just the apartment, them. Victoria's reading glasses folded neatly on the side table. Audrey's shoes kicked off by the door, messy and casual against Victoria's perfectly aligned boots. A stack of manuscripts on the desk in the corner, covered in Victoria's precise red pen annotations. A gallery catalog on the coffee table, bookmarked with a sticky note in Audrey's round handwriting. This was their life. Their home. Their shared, intertwined, 3-year history of building something together. And I was standing in the middle of it with a $12 bottle of wine, about to do something that could blow it all apart. Audrey met me at the door in a simple white blouse and jeans, her hair pulled back in a loose ponytail, minimal makeup. She looked stunning in the way that people look when they're completely comfortable in their own skin. Relaxed. Happy. Like she'd been looking forward to this all day. Come in, she said, pulling me inside by the hand. Her fingers were warm, her grip gentle but certain. I've been cooking all afternoon. I hope you like mushroom risotto. You didn't have to go through all that trouble. It's not trouble. She led me to the kitchen island, where 2 glasses of red wine were already poured, a Burlo, I noticed, from a bottle that probably cost more than my grocery budget for the week. It's a pleasure. I love cooking for people. Victoria never lets me cook anymore. She says I make too much of a mess. She laughed, but there was an edge to it. A carefully placed edge I would realize later. She has opinions about everything. You'd know something about that. I took a sip of wine and looked around the apartment more carefully. Photos everywhere. Victoria and Audrey at what looked like a vacation home, Tuscany, maybe, or the south of France. Victoria and Audrey at some formal event, both in black, both stunning. Victoria and Audrey with an older couple who might have been someone's parents, everyone smiling, everyone looking like they belonged in a catalog for a life well lived. In every photo, Victoria was smiling. actually smiling. Not the thin-lipped professional acknowledgement I saw at work, but real, genuine smiles that transformed her entire face. She looks different here, I said, picking up a photo from the shelf. Audrey glanced over from the stove. She looks happy. Is she? Happy, I mean. Audrey was quiet for a moment, stirring the risotto slowly. She was. For a long time, we both were. But lately, she set down the spoon. People change, Riley. Relationships change. Sometimes you wake up one morning and realize that the person lying next to you is a stranger. That's sad. It is. Audrey brought our plates to the couch, not the dining table, the couch, which felt intentionally intimate. We sat close together, knees almost touching, eating risotto that was genuinely delicious and drinking wine that was probably very expensive. The conversation flowed easily. Audrey asked about my family, my childhood, how I ended up in publishing. I told her about growing up in a small town, about knowing I was gay since middle school, about the English teacher who'd first shown me the power of a well-edited sentence. That's beautiful, Audrey said. Having someone see your potential like that. Funny. You said the same thing about Victoria seeing potential in me. Something flickered across Audrey's face. Quick, barely there. If I'd blinked, I would have missed it. I did, didn't I? She said lightly. She took my plate and set it on the coffee table, then shifted closer to me on the couch. Her hand found my knee. Can I be honest with you? She asked. Haven't you been? She smiled. I've been thinking about something all week. About what this is. About what I want it to be. She paused. I know you feel guilty. About Victoria. About the engagement. I'd be a monster if I didn't. You're not a monster. You're someone caught in a situation that's bigger than you. Her hand moved up from my knee, tracing along my thigh. But I need you to understand something, Riley. Whatever happens between me and Victoria, that's been building for a long time. Long before you came along. You didn't break anything. You just illuminated what was already cracking. She was close now. Really close. I could count the gold flecks in her hazel eyes. Could see the tiny scar on her bottom lip that I'd never noticed before. Riley, she whispered. Stop thinking. I can't. Try. She kissed me, and I stopped thinking. Her hands slid into my hair, and mine found her waist, and we sank into the couch cushions like the world outside didn't exist. She kissed differently than Victoria, slow, deliberate, savoring every moment like she wanted to memorize the taste of me. Her fingers traced the line of my jaw, my collarbone, the dip of my throat. I was lost in it. Completely, totally lost. The wine and the candlelight and the warmth of Audrey's body pressed against mine had dissolved every rational thought in my head. Her lips moved to my neck. I gasped. Her hand slid under the hem of my shirt, her fingers tracing my ribs, and I heard a key in the lock. We both froze. The front door opened, and Victoria Chin walked in, carrying her suitcase, still in her travel clothes, looking exactly like someone who was supposed to be in Boston until Sunday. The panic hit me like ice water. I scrambled off the couch, nearly knocking over the wine glasses, my shirt half untucked, my lipstick smeared. Victoria, this isn't. But Victoria wasn't looking at me. She was looking at Audrey. And she was smiling. Not an angry smile. Not a cold smile. Not even a surprised smile. It was calm. Satisfied. Like someone watching a plan come together exactly the way they'd designed it. Right on time, Victoria said. She said it to Audrey. Not to me. To Audrey. The room tilted. What? I managed. Victoria set her suitcase by the door and took off her coat, draping it over a chair with that precise, deliberate grace she brought to everything. She unbuttoned the cuffs of her blouse and rolled her sleeves up, casual, unhurried, like she'd walked into a perfectly normal evening at home instead of catching her fiancé kissing someone on their couch. Then she walked to the kitchen, poured herself a glass from the same bottle of wine Audrey had opened, and took a long, slow sip. Audrey hadn't moved from the couch. She'd straightened up, fixed her blouse, smoothed her hair, but there was no panic in her movements. No scrambling. She was watching Victoria with an expression I couldn't read. Not guilty. Not scared. Something closer to anticipation. Like an actress waiting for her cue. Victoria, I said, my voice shaking. What's happening right now? Victoria leaned against the kitchen counter, wine glass in hand, studying me with those dark, unreadable eyes. The same eyes that had burned with desperation in the elevator. The same eyes that had been soft and vulnerable in her office that morning. Now they were calm. Assessing. Patient. Sit down, Riley, she said. No. Tell me what's going on. Sit. Down. It was the voice she used in editorial meetings. The one that made junior editors snap to attention and senior editors find sudden reasons to check their phones. Against my better judgment, against every instinct screaming at me to grab my bag and leave, I sat. Victoria looked at Audrey. Something passed between them, silent, wordless, the kind of communication that only came from years of knowing someone inside and out. A whole conversation in a single glance. Audrey nodded, almost imperceptibly. There was no conference in Boston, Victoria said. The words landed like a punch to the sternum. I was at the Marriott downtown. 5 miles from here. I've been there since Friday morning, waiting for Audrey's text telling me you'd arrived. I turned to Audrey. She met my gaze steadily, and there it was, the warmth was still there, but it was layered now, more complex. Not fake, exactly. Just incomplete. Like I'd been seeing one facet of a diamond and suddenly the whole thing had rotated, revealing angles and depths I hadn't known existed. The bathroom at the gala, I said slowly, as the pieces started assembling themselves in my head, one by one, each one clicking into place with a horrible, perfect logic. You didn't just happen to walk in there. Audrey tilted her head. I saw you watching us all night. The way you looked at Victoria, all that frustration and anger, like she'd personally offended you by existing. And then the way you looked at me. She paused. Like you couldn't decide which one of us confused you more. The bar. My voice sounded hollow, far away, like someone else was speaking. You came to the bar. You started talking to me. I pressed my hand to my mouth, remembering the champagne, the flirting, the escalating intimacy that had felt so organic, so natural. You steered the whole conversation. I gave you openings, Audrey said carefully. You walked through them. And when I said I wanted to kiss you, when I said that stupid, reckless, career-ending thing, you told me to do it. You literally said do it. I did. Was any of it real? The speech about being tired of being perfect? About wanting to do something reckless? A flicker of something crossed Audrey's face. Pain, maybe. Or honesty fighting its way through layers of performance. That part was real, she said quietly. More than you know. The room spun. I was rewriting the last week and a half in my head, watching every moment I thought was spontaneous reveal itself as choreographed. Audrey in the bathroom, warm and friendly. Audrey at the bar, encouraging. The conference room, what if I wanted to happen again? Had she rehearsed that line? Had she practiced that look of vulnerable longing in the mirror? And Victoria. The elevator. The hands, the threats, the raw desperation in her voice. Do you have any idea what you've done to me? Had that been real? Had any of it been real? The elevator, I whispered. Victoria took another sip of wine. That was real. More real than I intended, actually. I was supposed to be cooler about it. More controlled. A hint of something embarrassment? Crossed her face. You have a way of making my plans fall apart. Your plans. I stood up again because I couldn't sit still, couldn't be contained, couldn't process this while being small and still. This was a plan. You planned this. Both of you. Neither of them denied it. How long? I demanded. How long have you been? I couldn't even finish the sentence. Since the gala, Victoria said. After you kissed Audrey. After I saw you kiss her. She set her wine glass down. I was furious. I went home and I was ready to destroy you. File the HR complaint. Get you blacklisted from every publisher in the city. But then we talked, Audrey continued, and they switched so seamlessly it was like watching a relay race. And I told her what it felt like. Kissing you. How alive it made me feel. And Victoria said. I said I understood. Victoria finished. Because I'd been feeling the same thing for 18 months. The silence that followed was suffocating. So you what? I said. Decided to share me? Take turns? See which one of you could seduce the junior editor first. It wasn't like that, Audrey said quickly. Then what was it like? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you two treated me like a toy. Like some kind of game. Not a game, Victoria said, and her voice was quiet now, stripped of its usual authority. A test. A test of what? Victoria and Audrey looked at each other again. That silent communication. That infuriating synchronicity. Of whether you could handle both of us, Victoria said. The world stopped. Not slowed. Stopped. Like someone had pressed pause on reality, and I was the only one still moving, still breathing, still trying to make sense of a sentence that had just rearranged everything I thought I understood about what was happening. "I'm sorry," I said carefully. "What?" Audrey stood up from the couch and moved toward me. Slowly, like approaching a wild animal. "Victoria and I have been together for 3 years," she said. "And we love each other. That's real. That's not part of any plan. But we've known for a long time that something was missing," Victoria added. "A piece that we couldn't quite name. We tried to ignore it," Audrey said. "Threw ourselves into work. Into wedding planning. Into building this perfect life." She gestured around the apartment. "But the more perfect we made everything, the more obvious the gap became." I was shaking. Not from fear, not from anger, from the sheer overwhelm of standing in the center of something I hadn't known existed 5 minutes ago. "This has happened before," I said, remembering Marcus's warning. "Priya, the woman who transferred to London." Victoria flinched. Actually flinched. It was the first crack in her composure all night. "Priya was a mistake," she said. "We approached it wrong. We weren't honest, not with her, not with ourselves. We scared her. Hurt her. She left because we handled it badly, and I don't blame her. We learned from it," Audrey said. "We promised each other that if it ever happened again, we'd be more careful. More intentional. We'd make sure the person understood what we were offering before they were in too deep." Too deep. I laughed, and it came out sharp and bitter. "I'm in your apartment. I was just making out with your fiancé on your couch." "Your couch, Victoria. I think too deep was about 3 exits ago." "I know." Victoria's voice cracked, just slightly. "I know the timing isn't ideal." "The timing? The timing isn't the problem. The problem is that you manipulated me. Both of you. You made me think I was choosing, and the whole time you were, I stopped, pressing my hands to my face. God, I'm such an idiot." "You're not an idiot," Audrey said softly. "I am. I fell for every single moment of it. The bathroom, the bar, the elevator, the apology, the coffee on my desk, the dinner, my voice broke. The texts. Both of you texting me on the same night. That was coordinated too, wasn't it?" "Yes," Victoria said. No deflection. No excuse. "And the conference room? When Audrey showed up at my office and asked to talk. Was that?" "That was me," Audrey said. Victoria knew. She watched me walk in on the security cameras. The betrayal of it was breathtaking. Not because they wanted me, that part, insanely, I could almost understand. But because every moment I'd thought was real, every instance where I'd felt chosen, special, desired, it had all been curated. Directed. Produced like one of the media campaigns Victoria oversaw at Sterling. I was the target demographic, and they'd known exactly which buttons to push. "I need to leave," I said. "Riley," Audrey reached for my hand. "Don't." I pulled away. "Don't touch me. Not right now." I grabbed my bag from the floor. Put on my shoes. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely tie the laces. I was almost to the door when Victoria spoke. "No one's ever said yes." I stopped. Hand on the doorknob. Every time we've found someone we both connected with, it falls apart at this moment. Right here. When they find out the truth. Victoria's voice was steady, but there was something underneath it. Something raw and honest and terribly exposed. They run. They always run. Can you blame them? I said without turning around. No, I can't. A pause. But I'm asking you not to. Not yet. Not before you've had a chance to think about what this could be. I turned. Victoria was still by the kitchen counter, but everything about her posture had changed. The control was gone. The mask was off. She looked small. Human. Scared. Beside her, Audrey stood with tears tracking silently down her cheeks. Not dramatic tears. Not manipulative tears. The quiet kind that come when someone knows they've hurt the person they care about and can't take it back. What could it be? I asked. What exactly are you offering me? Us, Audrey said simply. Both of us. Not a game, not a competition, not an affair. A relationship. Real, honest, all 3 of us. That's insane. Maybe, Victoria said. But you've been walking toward insanity since the night you kissed my fiancé at a company gala. Don't pretend you haven't felt it. The 3 of us, this energy, it's not normal. It's not something you find every day. You can't just, I stopped. Breathed. You can't manipulate someone into a relationship and then ask them to trust you. You're right, Victoria said. We can't. And I understand if you walk out that door and never speak to either of us again. I'll make sure your career isn't affected. No HR complaints. No blacklisting. You have my word. For whatever that's worth, I muttered. Victoria nodded, accepting that. For whatever it's worth. The apartment was silent. The risotto was getting cold on the coffee table. The candles Audrey had lit were flickering low. Somewhere outside, a siren wailed and faded. I looked at Audrey, who was wiping her eyes with the back of her hand, her mascara slightly smudged, her carefully curated warmth finally cracking into something messier and more real than anything I'd seen from her before. I looked at Victoria, standing in her kitchen with her armor completely gone, looking more like a person and less like a myth than she ever had in 18 months of working together. Two women. Both brilliant. Both beautiful. Both terrifying in completely different ways. Both wanting me not in competition with each other, but together. As a package deal. It was the most insane proposition anyone had ever made to me. And the most terrifying part wasn't that they'd asked. It was that some traitorous, reckless, wildfire part of me, the part that had kissed Audrey at the gala, the part that had trembled under Victoria's hands in the elevator, the part that kept choosing chaos over safety, that part was whispering. What if? I need time, I said. Take all the time you need, Audrey said. And I need honesty. Complete, total honesty. No more plans. No more tests. No more rehearsed lines and coordinated texts. If this has any chance of being real, it starts with the truth. Agreed, Victoria said immediately. And I swear to God, if either of you ever manipulates me again, you'll burn us both down, Victoria finished, and there was something in her eyes that looked almost like admiration. I wouldn't expect anything less. I opened the door. Turned back one last time. Audrey was holding Victoria's hand. Both of them watching me with the same expression, hope, fear, longing, all tangled together in a knot that mirrored exactly what was happening inside my chest. I'll call you, I said. And then I walked out into the hallway and closed the door behind me. I stood there for a long time. Minutes, maybe. My back against the wall, my heart hammering, my hands pressed flat against the cool plaster like I needed something solid to remind me that I was real, that this hallway was real, that the last hour hadn't been some kind of fever dream. The sounds of the building settled around me. A TV playing softly somewhere on the floor above. The distant hum of the elevator. A dog barking 3 floors down. Normal sounds. Human sounds. The soundtrack of a world that hadn't just shifted on its axis, even though mine had. I replayed it all. Every moment, from the gala to right now, running through my memory like a film I was finally watching with the director's commentary turned on. Audrey in the bathroom. You're Riley, aren't you? She'd already known my name. She'd already done her research. The chance meeting by the sink was as choreographed as a ballet. Audrey at the bar. Make it 2. She'd come to find me. Not because she was bored while Victoria talked to investors. Because it was her turn. Her move. Her part of the play. The kiss. God, the kiss. I'd thought I was the one being reckless, being brave, being spontaneous. But Audrey had led me there step by step, the flattery, the champagne, the intimacy of confiding about her relationship, the challenge in her eyes when she said, do it. I'd thought I was lighting the match. But they'd already built the fire. Victoria in the elevator. That one still confused me. She'd said herself that it was more real than she intended. That I'd made her plans fall apart. Was that true? Or was the unplanned intensity just a more sophisticated layer of the performance? The apology in her office. The coffee on my desk. The way she'd said, you look beautiful in blue, like it cost her something to admit. Audrey's dinner. Her texts. The painting called Controlled Burn. Controlled Burn. I almost laughed. Almost. Because that's exactly what this was, wasn't it? A controlled burn. They'd set a fire carefully, deliberately, with boundaries and objectives, and I'd been the terrain. The dry grass. The thing that caught and blazed and thought it was burning on its own. But here was the thing that kept me pinned to that hallway wall instead of walking to the elevator and leaving. They were right. Not about the manipulation, that was wrong, and I wasn't going to pretend otherwise. But about the connection. About the energy between the 3 of us being something rare. Because I'd felt it. Not just with Audrey. Not just with Victoria. with both of them, separately and together. This gravitational pull that made my brain shut off and my pulse race and every nerve ending in my body stand at attention. I'd never felt that with anyone. Not once in my entire life. And they were offering it to me. Packaged badly, wrapped in deception, held out by hands I wasn't sure I could trust, but offering it nonetheless. No one's ever said yes. I thought about Priya, the woman who'd run. Who'd transferred to a whole other country to get away from whatever Victoria and Audrey had put her through. Marcus's warning echoed in my head. She won't talk about why. Was that going to be me in 6 months? Fleeing to some satellite office, refusing to make eye contact with anyone who mentioned Sterling Media? Or was Priya's story different? Was she the version that happened when they handled it badly, as Victoria had said? Was the lesson they'd learned between then and now the difference between disaster and possibility? I didn't know. I couldn't know. Not standing in this hallway with my heart in pieces and my thoughts scattered across the floor like broken glass. But I could feel my phone in my pocket. And I could feel my fingers itching to reach for it. I should run. Every rational part of my brain was screaming at me to run. To block both numbers. To update my resume and find a job at a publisher on the other side of the country. To forget that Victoria Chen and Audrey Hart existed and go back to my simple, boring, safe life where no one pinned me against elevator walls or kissed me in conference rooms or orchestrated elaborate romantic conspiracies to recruit me into their relationship. But my hand was already in my pocket. Already pulling out my phone. Already unlocking the screen. Audrey's contact. Victoria's number right below it. 2 names. 2 women. One choice that would change everything. My thumb hovered over the screen. The hallway was quiet. The world was waiting. And somewhere on the other side of that door, I could have sworn I heard 2 people holding their breath. If your jaw is on the floor right now, good. Because I told you this story was about to get messy, and we're not even close to done. Riley's standing in that hallway right now with a decision that could destroy her career, break 2 hearts, or begin something nobody saw coming. Not even her. Drop your predictions in the comments. Is she going to say yes? Is she going to run? And be honest, what would you do? Subscribe because part 3 is going to blow this wide open. See you in the chaos.